2 years ago, Americans watched in horror as a crisis unfolded at the Kabul airport.
There's desperation and anguish.
More than 80,000 Afghans have since arrived in America, but this story is still unfolding. I'm Andrea Smartin. In my new podcast, Stranger Becomes Neighbor, we'll find out what happens to these new arrivals in our communities. Who would help our newest neighbors? Follow us at kslpodcast.com, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else you listen.
Welcome back to Project Recovery, a weekly podcast about addiction and, well, recovery. I'm Casey Scott. This is Dr. Matt Woolley. We've got our guest in studio, Dustin Hawkins from WAR, which is Workout Addiction Recovery.
I like to call him Hawk.
Hawk. Yeah, that's right. That's tough.
I know. It's cool, right?
If you were a bird, what would your name be?
Tweety, probably. I don't know.
Robin. We
yeah.
call you Robin. But last time you listened to us, Hawk was talking about how he failed his first drug test. Wasn't sure.
Hold on. Hawk and I have some business to talk about.
Okay, what is that?
Because we're both Wichita State Shockers.
Okay.
And I just want to know if he watched the other night when Wichita State beat #1 Indiana in the March Madness tour. We're moving on.
I didn't.
You didn't?
Watch that.
Okay. Next week on Tuesday, we got it. We'll exchange numbers. It's a shocker thing. It's okay, Casey.
I got it.
You know, it's all right.
All right.
It's just me and him
Okay.
bonding.
So you failed your first drug test. You took the summer off. You weren't sure what you were going to do about baseball. Spring training comes around. Where are you now?
Yeah, so I roll into spring training. Worried that I'm going to fail another drug test.
Did anybody know, like friends and family, like your off season? Did you confide in anybody?
Everybody knew that I partied.
Yeah, but did they know you'd failed this test and that you're keeping that on the DL?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And so were you kind of, by saying to friends and family, I might be done with baseball, just softening the blow, preparing them for if you don't make the team again or something bad happens?
You know, I a little bit. I probably didn't say that much to my dad, and I still worked hard in the off season and still got ready for spring training. But I was just so into partying by this time, and just that whole scene that.
Let me ask, are you back in Ogden at this point?
Yeah.
And so here's a guy that graduated from Bonneville, went to the majors, is now back. I mean, you've got to have somewhat of a superstar status in that town at that point.
Well, yeah, so that was a hard. I'm glad you brought that up, especially in my late recovery, like when I was first getting sober in 2010. But like everyone thought I was so cool, you know. They're like, "Oh, he's this cool guy. He played in the Astros organization." It was minor league baseball too.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, and so I always just had this, and that was keeping me sick. You know, like I was so scared that anyone knew that I had this secret, that I'm just this pill addict, and.
It's hard enough to get a reputation in O-Town, then you have to keep it.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
You know?
You and Casey, you're like the only guys I know that are that cool.
So you're scared, and
Right.
you don't want them to find out what's
Right.
going on, and you're trying to live up to this persona that you've created, and also the community's created for
Right.
you. There's a lot of hype, there's a lot of pressure, and you're just trying to keep it all together, but inside it's falling apart.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And you know, then when I went to spring training, is what happened is it was like about a week and a half in, I hit a ground ball to the second baseman. We were, you know, playing, and I had to beat the pitcher over because the first baseman had pulled off, and so I was just sprinting it out hard, and I lunged for the bag, and I popped my hamstring, and it, like, literally, you heard it. It sounded like a gunshot. Like, it was just like, you know. So I come up lame, and anyway, I do some physical. I mean, I can't play. You know, it's black and blue.
But now you've got a reason to be on.
Well, so now I'm convinced. I already thought I was going to get released, right? Now it's an excuse. Like, so anyway, like a week and a half later, I end up getting released.
And for everybody, what does that mean exactly?
They just put a note on your locker, and you go in, and then they give you your plane ticket, you fly home.
And you're done.
You're done.
It's like getting fired.
It's like getting fired.
Okay.
So I get released, and I'm actually relieved. I had an excuse now to tell my hometown I got hurt. You know what I mean? I got hurt. Mm-hmm. That's the only reason I got released. And that's not why I got released. You know, I was a drug addict. I was going to get released anyway. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's what I believe. Now that I'm real. And
looking back, I mean, it sounds like you realize now that people in the organization, they knew you had a problem.
Yeah, especially for the failing that drug test and having that horrible season.
Yeah.
You know, and just the different stuff. I mean, who knows what they were talking about, you know?
So now you got an excuse to come back.
Right.
And so you come back and you can kind of sell the community, I got hurt, but inside you're not fixed, and right. you're trying to do it. So then where does Dustin go from there?
So, so I come home, and I actually got, now I'm in a relationship with pills. I found out that I could manage my pill use by smoking weed.
So this wasn't even your rock bottom yet?
No.
I mean, you just got fired from your baseball dreams. No. Still didn't feel like you hit rock bottom.
No, not at all. Not at all. So I managed pretty good. So I'd gotten into oxys, and like I said, the morphine pills, and then partying still. I ended up getting married my high school sweetheart. Put together a job. I got a job, actually. I got a job with, my first job ever was, with this little logistics company. I never had a real job. I was always just baseball, you know. So now I had no idea how to work. I had no confidence, you know, because, I was just like, dude, I don't even know how to. I've never even had a job. And then I'm insecure already.
So did you get the job because of who you were?
Yeah, it was a connection. It was a good little job. It was just like a sales job, you know, but it was my first job. I had my degree in exercise physiology. I ended up doing all right for a little while, leaning on weed, smoking weed every day, you know. So I found out if I smoked weed that I didn't, I could curb my pill. I could get away from pills. You know what I'm saying? Smoking weed and then drinking. You know, but drinking never really bit me hard. I never would drink. If I was drinking, it was going to go to party, you know, go to the bar or something. And then it wasn't like I needed to drink every day, you know.
And when you say doing okay, what you mean really is you're using weed to hold it together.
Yeah, just so I don't make it, so I don't do pills. It helped me.
But at that time, that felt like doing okay.
Oh, yeah. I felt like
kind of sad, right?
I'm not doing pills.
Looking at it back, yeah.
Telling my wife, I'm not doing pills. I haven't done pills in 2 weeks. I'm just smoking weed, though, you know. Mm-hmm. Weed's nothing. You know, that's my...
The kids like to say, it's organic.
Yeah, it's good for you nowadays, you know.
Don't panic. It's organic. That's what the kids say.
Right.
Casey's cooler than me. We know that.
So then you're smoking weed, and you're holding a job. You seem to be pulling it all together for time being.
Right.
And then what happens?
So then... I actually decided I'm going to go get my MBA, right? And so I'm working full time. By this time, I got a little girl. Do an online MBA through the University of Phoenix, but I couldn't do the MBA without Adderall. So I was doing pretty good. I hadn't touched Adderall, so I start doing this MBA program and become the worst Adderall addict ever. Right? And so this was my routine. I do Adderall all day, 130 to 150 milligrams a day.
Wow.
Around till about 3, and then from 3 o'clock on, I would do opiates. And then some Xanax right before bed to help me just shut it down, and that became my routine. I had a back surgery. So I had a back surgery because I had my left leg had developed, atrophy. I had the leg flop. Mm-hmm. So they had to go in and shave the disc off so that my leg was not going to, my calf wasn't going to atrophy or whatever. So I had that. So now I'm linked up to,
you have a
perk
prescription
10s,
again.
100 perk 10s a month.
Mm-hmm.
So now I get into playing these games with the doctor, the doctor shopping.
Yep.
To where, I'd run out of my script in 10 days, maybe sooner. And
a 30-day script.
Yeah, 30-day script. And then I had to figure out what to do for the rest of the time, And so then I'd buy them off the street. Roxy cotton by this time. Oxy was kind of fizzling out. But what really got me is my guy that I was buying them from, he had these pills called methadone pills. And I'd never heard of methadone. He gave me one of those methadone pills, and it lasts like 11 hours.
What is methadone normally prescribed for?
So, in my understanding, it's for heroin addicts. I mean, there's methadone clinics all over, so it's for heroin addicts that they go in and get. It's like heroin.
It's a way of gradually helping a person who's been using heroin get off heroin. So it has a similar effect. And if a person isn't getting off heroin, it might get them high, and people abuse that as well.
The thing that was hard is you can't get off methadone. I couldn't get off it. The worst sickness I've ever felt, and this restless legs, and like literally could not get off of it. And I couldn't. And that was the first time when I was like, dude, I cannot get off of this.
How many times had you tried?
Well, so I did methadone for like a year. I was doing methadone pills for like a year. And I had tried probably 10 times. My last time trying, so this is 2008 or 2009. My wife was done with me. By this time I had a 9-month little old boy and my little girl was 3. And she was done. She found out I ran through like $50,000 of our savings of a house that we sold. Ran through like $50,000 in like 12 or 13 months or 14 months.
And all of that just went to support
pills,
your habit.
partying, and then buying stupid stuff, and just my habit. So she finds out about that. I'm sitting there one morning. It's like I'm like 3 days off of pills, and I'm like, at this time I had gotten a job at the Huntsman Cancer Institute. I'm a hospital I'm an administrator.
You had your MBA. You
MBA.
made it through
I had my MBA by this point. I'm an administrator up at the Huntsman Cancer Institute. Good job.
Yeah, they're a great organization.
I'm high every day up there. Working with these doctors, scared to death. Mm-hmm. Having to take pills before every meeting because I can't talk without them. So I'm sitting there in the morning, one morning, and we 3 days off of pills. I'm getting ready to go to Huntsman, and we're just fighting in front of the kids. And she picks up a water bottle. It's a full water bottle, 24 ounce, and hits me in the side of the face with it. Like I got my little girl. Kids are crying, and I grab her. I'll never forget it. I grabbed her and I pushed her into a cabinet. And I remember I was gonna punch my wife, and I slowed down, and I walked out to my car, and I'm crying, and I'm driving to Huntsman, and as I'm driving, I'm like suicidal, I remember looking at people driving and being like, how do people go to work every day without taking something? All these people are going to work just 8 hours, have to sit at work all day and not take a pill. And I'm thinking these thoughts, thinking about like suicide, and this goes into a little bit of what happened with my first spiritual experience. But so I take the Beck Street exit, and I'd get off the Beck Street exit, and then to go to Huntsman, then I take that road going up by the Capitol building. You know what I'm talking about?
Victory Road.
Yeah, going up there. So I'm sitting at the stoplight, and I'm just crying, and I see the Mormon temple down below. And like I had heard that Christ had helped people, like all growing up, and my family was never into the church or more, did the church or anything. And so I get this thought. It's like, you should just go down to the Mormon temple and see what it's all about. So I go down and park behind that general conference area. And then I walk over into Temple Square, which I had never been in there. And I went in there's the visitor center on the right, and there's all those paintings of Christ. And I was standing at one of those paintings, and I was like, and I just got this like little like feeling in my heart, like, dude, this could help you if you got into this, like if you found God, if you got into Christ. Like it wasn't like this crazy experience,
like the heavens didn't part, light, and all this stuff.
No, it was just this little. I guess it was just hope. Like I felt a little bit of hope, and from that point on, and it's so detailed, but
I can see you're getting emotional.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was the hardest time of my life. I mean, now I'm at a rock bottom. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm like,
you felt it.
I'm suicidal. Like I'm scared of everybody. You know what? When you're like that, you're scared. At least I was. I couldn't talk. I couldn't talk to people sober. I was so scared. And so from that next year, I started working. I got into the Mormon Church. Which was something I had never done, so there's these sister missionaries down at the temple. I started going to the temple every morning. I was leaving on my lunch breaks or any time that I can to go down to try to feel that peace just at the Salt Lake Temple, standing in there. It felt better. And the sister missionaries there, they're seeing me there. I was crying to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you show up there often enough, they'll talk to you.
Yeah, they're talking. They're talking to me, and they got me into a bookstore across the street, Deseret Book, and I started reading like a ton, books about Christ. I was getting into C.S. Lewis, all the guys that run the church, the apostles, Neil A. Maxwell, who became my favorite. Listening to conference talks, reading the Book of Mormon, reading the Bible. Just, I started becoming active in the church. So my wife's from Arkansas, so she's like Baptist. And she's like, you're going to get into the Mormon church? And I'm like, hey, you don't like me now? Like, I got to try something. I cannot be happy. I don't feel like I'm ever going to be happy again. These are what I'm telling her and my parents and everything. So, I'm trying this, dude. I've seen a lot of happy, and I had a couple buddies, one guy that I looked at, and he did the church. And I looked, and I was like, dude, he's the most elite man I've ever. How do I get like that dude?
I want what he has.
Yeah, I want to be like him, And he did the church, and there was 2 or 3 other guys that I was looking at who ran good families, and I was like, dude, I want that. And so that was the motivation. And I got into the Mormon church. During this time, I'd always been in the weight room. So I'd always been active, training. Since I was 14, I've been training in the weight room, Various strength coaches at Wichita State and pro ball. Well, CrossFit came onto the scene right around then. I found out about it, 2009-ish, 2008, when this was all going on. And
let's stop you right there, and then when we come back, we'll talk more about his road to recovery here on Project Recovery. Welcome back to Project Recovery, a weekly podcast about addiction and, recovery. I'm Casey Scott. That's Dr. Matt Woolley. We're continuing our conversation with Dustin Hawkins of WAR, Workout Addiction Recovery in Ogden. So now, just so we can set the scene, we found your rock bottom.
Right.
And your rock bottom was you standing in your house, fighting with your wife, crying, breaking down, suicidal. And for some reason, you stopped above the LDS Temple in downtown Salt Lake, looked down there, and for some reason was compelled to go down there.
Right.
And throughout that process, you joined the Mormon Church.
Right.
And now you're talking about your working out.
Yeah. So I CrossFit had come onto the scene. I had found out about CrossFit, and I love their methodology, and a buddy of mine started a CrossFit gym in Ogden at the Ogden Athletic Club. Inside it, Lindsay Hassel.
I know Lindsay.
Yeah, Lindsay.
Bald Lindsay.
Yeah.
He's from Morgan.
Yeah,
Bald
he's
is
from
beautiful.
Morgan. So Lindsay, buddy of mine, we pair up, and I was his first trainer at his CrossFit gym there at the Ogden Athletic Club. So I start training intense, and I had this back surgery, and doctors had told me that dude, you shouldn't be doing this type of stuff, you know? And I remember thinking, like, I can't be on pills, right? There's no way. Because I'm sure I could be linked up to the pain clinic and be on pills the rest of my life. It doesn't work. Nobody likes me when I'm on them. My wife can't stand me.
So that went from people liking you when you first started them to now nobody likes you.
Nobody liked me.
You'd lost your baseball career. You're struggling at home. And you'd gone to this extreme, and you knew, I can't be on these anymore. Right.
No, I knew it wasn't going to work. There's no way I can progress in life. I have to get sober. Like, this was me. Like, and so I knew that I needed to be an athlete. Like, I've been an athlete my whole life, sweating, playing, right? I knew that I needed, and that's what CrossFit, I was like, dude, and so I started training deadlifts, power cleans, push jerks, split jerks, power snatch. I started training in this.
Sounds like everything Casey does every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to get myself in my underwear.
But I started exploring this world with it. And I started exploring good nutrition. And what I'm doing in the church. And I was like, and I started to feel happy. Like, this is a year, though, of, like, blood, sweat, and tears. Don't get this twisted. Like, full of relapse and, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't a beautiful year. Like,
so it wasn't just
no.
cold turkey to stop.
It was blood, sweat, and tears, competing with myself.
Can I ask, did your wife stick around?
Oh, yeah. She's my angel.
Yeah.
So
sure.
Now you're feeling good and you're doing stuff for your body. So everything seems to be working after a long, hard-fought year. And so you start to see a correlation?
Yeah, I started wanting to tell people what I was doing. So I was like, and I kept seeing, like Facebook was coming right then, and I started seeing on the social media all these deaths and all these even kids in my community. One of my buddies OD'd on heroin. And I started getting bit by that charity bug where I was like, dude, I want to make a difference. Like, I could teach people what I'm doing, and this is sick. Like, it works, you know, like, I'm happy. So what happened is I came up with the idea with WAR, right? Workout addiction recovery. Well, I'm working at Huntsman, keep in mind. That's my day job, and things were going better there. However, it was hard because I backtracked. I couldn't talk in meetings now. So my job was to, like, combine the therapist, or combine the scientists and the MDs and put them in a room together, and then I'd put out the agenda, and
boy, that must have been tough.
Have to introduce them all, and I mean, so we have something that happened that was so embarrassing. I'm just sober, getting sober. I'm still worried about everybody knowing, by the way, back in my hometown, so it's still a secret. I have to put together this meeting. University of California, San Francisco is coming out for, like, a collaboration on a grant. And I'm sober, and I want to do pills because I'm so scared that I got to introduce these doctors and go over the agenda in this scary room with those long, scary tables, you know. And I don't feel comfortable around doctors, you know. I didn't at the time, and so they all come in, and I'm getting ready to talk, and I'm hyperventilating. I'm like, I can't breathe. I couldn't say anything. I had to walk out of the room.
Do you think it was a panic attack?
I don't know what happened.
I thought you were going to say one of the docs threw you down and gave you mouth-to-mouth or something.
No.
Because that would be pretty embarrassing.
Yeah. Like,
so what happened? What did you do?
I walk out, and I'm out in the hall and one of my coworkers comes walking out and is just like, you all right? Like, what's going on? And I'm just like, I don't know. I can't talk. So I had experiences like that.
Yeah, and that's a panic attack.
Through that
that's
year
a panic attack.
of trying to get sober up there. However, I started progressing up there. You know, like after I was this recovery, like, I started progressing at my job too, and I'm weight training and all these different things and nutrition, and now I'm down talking with the sister missionaries, and I'm going to church on Sunday, and I'm reading. Well, so I get the idea for workout addiction recovery as a night program at the Ogden Athletic Club. I pitch it to Lindsay, and I pitch it to the owner of the club, who's another really good friend of mine. Travis Duggar was his name. I'm like, dude, I want to start a free program at nights at the Ogden Athletic Club. You guys down for addicts, you know? And they're like, do it, start it. So I start it with like 2 of my buddies. And the thing that was awesome about the club is they, 6,000 or 7,000 members or whatever. So started with like 2 or 3 people, 4 or 5 people, 7, 10 people. Within like a 6-week period, we got 15, 20 people back there.
Oh, that's great.
Because the club, I'd have people wandering back there and like, hey, man, is this for addicts? Yeah, man, it is. Like, can I do it? Like, so what the way it went is I'd train them in the gym, and then we'd go into a classroom. And at that time, I hadn't built any of my curriculum yet. I mean, it has over the years, but and then I was just spitting at them what I was learning. It wasn't like a Mormon program or anything, but the stuff I was learning from the church as far as character and then I was talking to them about like nutrition and just trying to get them to live a lifestyle, right? Mm-hmm. Where I came up with this, so I was seeing a therapist during this time, right? 2 times a week. I'm training. The times I would train, I'd work out and then go visit with my therapist. I'd go like in and have this awesome session with them, learning, talkative, right? I was high. Like my endorphins were rolling. The times I didn't train before I went to the therapist, I'd sit in my car and be like, I do not want to go in and talk to this guy.
Therapists are the worst, right?
But I put that together like, dude, you learn better after exercise. And so that's been my whole philosophy. We train, we sweat together, and then boom, we go in and we learn and we talk and have just awesome. We were having just some of the most incredible conversations.
That's an epiphany, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you put those 2 things together and realized that you can manage your body in a way to be your best self. And it's a natural, I don't even really like to use the term high, but I mean, we often call that a natural high. But what it is you're maximizing your body's potential.
Yeah, exactly.
So you keep this going at the Ogden Athletic Club for how many years?
Well, it wasn't years. So I keep that going, right? Well, I'm working at Huntsman, but I can't work at Huntsman anymore, right? Like my mind had shifted to the war. Like I felt bad. Like, so this is right during the financial collapse, right? I got a good job, good salary, good benefits. And I start getting this whisper in my head like, dude, you should just quit your gig up here and just do war. And so, like, I pitch it to my wife, and she's like, she was actually pretty supportive. I pitch it to my parents. My parents are like, that is crazy. What are you going to do about insurance, whatever. And so I'm like, you're right. I can't do anything if we don't have insurance, I go into my boss, and I expressed my concerns to my boss at Huntsman. I told her what I was doing. I was like, look, and I'm not able to really work hard up here right now. Like, I feel like I just want to, I'm not as focused up here. I kind of feel bad because I wanted to be honest, because I hadn't been for so long. And so I told her, I was like, I'm thinking about quitting and just dumping out my 401k. I had like 40 grand in my 401k or something. And she's like, Dustin, you cannot do that. What are you going to do about insurance? Like everybody's bringing up insurance. And so at this point, I was thinking, you can't do anything without insurance. So she's telling me how many people, how many resumes she's got coming in. And anyway, I make the decision. I go in, I put my 2 weeks in. I dump out my 401k. I rip out a little garage in which you were at
up there in Ogden.
Yeah. I rip. It's just a garage with 2 big bay doors. Bought state of the art equipment from Rogue. Put about another guy, a good friend of my parents, who was in recovery, who's pretty wealthy. He threw 20 grand at me because I was nonprofit. I went nonprofit. He threw 20 grand at me to help me buy more equipment, and I started it. And had off in another little building. I had just a classroom, and no one came.
Oh.
Well, now it's not a free. Like now, I see that this is hilarious because I didn't have a way that I was going to make money. So I remember thinking, oh, dude, because I had the job up at Huntsman. Now I was like, well, how do I support my family? Mm-hmm. I was on kind of a pink cloud because I didn't have much recovery time. So imagine, how people.
How long had you been sober approximately?
So about a year.
Okay.
Maybe a little under when I first came up with the idea and started at the club, like 8 or 9, 10, 11 months. I mean, dude,
Sounds like a good time to start a podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, exactly.
But I understand what you're saying, because once you do come out on that other side and you can look back and the triggers and all that, I mean, you want to find wherever you can and shout it to as many people as you can. Hey, look, it gets better. I promise it does. And the reason I can do that is because I've done it and I'm doing it. And that's what it's about. And so nobody's coming to your place now. And what's going through your head?
Well, so I was just like,
wish you had insurance.
Well, so I still had my people coming, but like I was thinking, all right, I got to figure out how to. Yeah, I wish I had insurance. And I get this call from this dude. I played Little League football with him. He wouldn't mind if I used his name. You probably know him. Well, let's just not use his name.
Okay.
Played Little League football with him up until 6th grade. He went the Ogden High route. I went the Bonneville route. Right? And he went to Mount Ogden and whatever. We lost track. We were like best friends up until sixth grade, right? Well, so I get this call from this dude. Just call him John. And he says, hey, man, you remember me? I played Little League football with you. He's like, I heard you running a program like helping addicts. He's like, dude, I'm a heroin addict. He's like, I've been heroin addict for 4 years, living in a bank-owned house. I lost my kids. My kids are in, my wife and kids, my ex-wife and kids are in Las Vegas. And he's like, bro, can you help me? He's like, I got no money. I'll do whatever you say. I'm going to die, one of those things. And I was like, yeah, bro, let's get going. So I didn't know much about working with people either. Like, looking back, I thought I knew it all kind of. But so I start picking this guy up, and he's on doing about 7 or 8 balloons a day of heroin, right? And this is a special guy. He was done. He wanted to be done with heroin, so keep that in mind. So I start picking him up. I'm training him in the gym, right? I raise like $300 or $400 from like his family and other people, and we go to Costco and I buy him perfect nutrition, like just $300 worth of food, and I get him on a schedule. This is what I want you to eat now. This is what I get him on my nutrition game plan. I'm picking him up every morning, pretty much hanging out with him throughout the day, right? He walks himself down to 1 balloon of heroin fairly quick. And then he's hanging out around doing 1, and we tried to detox him a couple times, but he's living with 4 other guys that are doing heroin. They were selling it and everything. So he'd lay down in his basement for 2 days, and after 2 days, he'd cave and go upstairs because he'd be so sick. And finally I was like, bro, this ain't working. You got to move out of this house and back in with your parents if this is going to happen, And he didn't want to move back in with his parents. I mean, no one does, So finally he moves back in with his parents, gets it out of his system. He goes from looking like a guy with 1 foot in the grave, a guy to doing heroin for a long time. And he was actually down on heroin when I met him. He was not doing very much. He goes from looking like he's got 1 foot in the grave to a UFC fighter after we got it out in literally 2 months. Like I remember, and the transformation was crazy. So I get this, there's no money. There's no money. It's Christmas time. I get a call from his brother-in-law. I always get choked up when I tell this, but his brother-in-law says, hey, man, I want to put a little money in your account, make a donation. What's your account number? And I was like, all right, yeah. So I give him my account number. Well, at the time, I'd been hustling through text, getting like $200, $300 donations, that was how I was raising money, just through text. And, so I don't even look at my account. Well, I look into my account, and I'm standing at America First Credit Union at the bank, and I look in there, and they tell me, and he had put $12,000 in my account.
Whoa.
I'm just, dude, I start crying. I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm just like baffled. And that was when I started gaining the testimony that I got something that can lead people to change. This can't fail. I started developing this belief system because over this last 10 years or 9 years since I've been going, I got 15 other stories like that where the money just somehow came. Because if you care about something and you care about the process of something, you can't fail. And I've gained that testimony over the years. I was talking to Frank about it the other day. Like, I'm not scared anymore if war's ever going to make it. I got something and I care about people, and my organization cares about people. We can't fail. We might get tight, but if we keep leading people to change like we have been, it's gonna progress.
Man, this has been one of my favorite episodes. I want to say thank you very much for sharing with us and being so honest and forthright. I mean, that's been amazing. I don't know about you, Dr. Matt.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate, Hawk, the fact that you're telling the story, and even things that are hard to talk about, the conflict with your wife and taking the leap of faith to start this and give back to other people. And I love the attitude that this can't fail because of your passion and that you're bringing health and happiness into people's lives. I believe that. I agree with you that this is going to continue on to help people. And it's a different type. Casey and I have talked a lot about how people need to connect with something in their recovery. And for a lot of people, this it feels to me like you've got three pillars here. One is the fitness, the exercise. Right. One is the nutrition, and the other is the spirituality.
Right. Perfect.
And those are the three things, somebody's listening to this and that feels right to them. That's what we're about, is trying to bring options for treatment and recovery to people.
If somebody wants to know more information about workout addiction recovery, where do they go?
So we got our Instagram @WarAddiction. It's called. Dustin L. Hawkins is my handle. Then our Facebook page is Workout Addiction Recovery.
You guys also have a podcast.
And then we run a podcast as well. And we're just similar to this. I mean, we want to be like because I see so many people that can't get into treatment, that can't afford it. I mean, the statistics crazy how many people can't get into treatment or need, and so I want to be a resource with my podcast and just like this one, where people could listen to it and be like, I got something from those guys, and I feel better about things, and I got some ideas on some stuff that I can do.
Yeah, I love it, man. Well, thank you very much. Thank you to everybody for the support of Project Recovery. Tell your friends, give us a rating, hit that subscribe button. Thanks to Dr. Matt, of course, Hawk and War, and our producer, John, started the music too early, Smith, and everyone at KSL for putting us out there. Project Recovery is a KSL podcast. Frank, we're going to have you back. Sorry, man. No, that was...